All right.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm so excited to be presenting to you a wonderful woman who I had the pleasure to meet last year. Her name is Tayria Ward. Have I pronounced that correctly?
Yes, it's Taria, right.
Taria, thank you. Now, I'll just tell you a little bit about Taria before we get chatting to her. She has a PhD and she's worked extensively and intensively with her own and other people's dreams for more than 40 years. In 2004, she established Bridging Worlds, which was a centre specifically dedicated for working with individuals and groups to bridge the waking mind with the dreaming mind, so the visible world with the invisible, and the domesticated self with the wild self, culture with nature. So the opposites, the conscious, the unconscious. And presently, she has a private practice specializing in dream analysis in Asheville, North Carolina, in America. And there she works with clients in person via Skype and by phone. She also offers dream groups, workshops, and lectures. Her PhD is in depth psychology, which I'm actually not even sure what that is, so we'll ask you about that in a moment. Um, Previously, she was a minister in an interfaith organisation for 20 years and a professor at undergraduate and graduate levels. And, as if that wasn't enough, you've been busy, the owner of a retreat centre in the remote mountains of Western North Carolina, where she conducted retreats, sweat lodges, and vision quests. So, we're blessed to have a true elder amongst us, someone who's really done the journey consciously for many, many years, and that is a real privilege. So thank you so much. You know, it was less prevalent in your era, so that makes you even more special, Taria. So thank you for being a light, guiding the way for those of us that follow in your footsteps. So welcome.
Oh dear, thank you so much, Tanishka. You are such an inspiration to me. It's a great honor to be with you in your programs and with
Oh,
your students.
bless.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, look, I'll just pick up on that question. Depth psychology. Can you give us just an insight into what that is?
Yes, it's often conceived of as the school of psychology that Freud and Jung founded, although they were standing on their forebears,
Okay.
and a lot has happened since then. But Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud are considered central figures in the school of depth psychology. So it's about
Thank
working
you.
with the unconscious, uh,
Thank you.
the objective psyche, collective unconscious, and the
Thank you.
dream mind. Yes.
Thank you. I'm grateful. Now I'm on the same page. That's, yeah, helpful. And I guess for other people who aren't familiar with the terms, but
Yeah.
know of particularly Jung's work, who I think resonates with a lot more people. These days, Freud was, yeah, the sort of precursor, wasn't he? Um, uh, so the reason that I thought it would be wonderful to have an interview with you, Taria, is that as you know, I teach women to facilitate women's circles in alignment with the new moon, which is when our psychic gifts are, really amplified. And it's that time of going deep and looking at what has been our lesson in the month, the lunar month that we've just journeyed. And so, you know, dream analysis is a wonderful tool to then bring into that space.
Mhm.
So, first of all, as somebody that's a complete beginner, what would you say to them? Are there sort of do's or don'ts or practical tips for analyzing dreams that you would offer to the uninitiated?
Well, I would say to begin with, start a dream journal. Keep a nice, a beautiful, like an honored space to record the messages that come to you in the night. And those messages that occur to us in the night have been marginalized over the last through modernity, but used to be considered the voices of the divine, that which comes from the great beyond, that is instructing us nightly and giving us the deeper messages about what's occurring in our life. So to begin, I would say just make an intention before you go to sleep, and that you'll remember your dreams, and ask your dreaming mind to help you remember. And then whatever you wake up with, I don't ever encourage people to lose any sleep over like waking themselves up to write down their dreams in the middle of the
Right.
night.
Okay.
Because sleep is too precious.
Yeah.
Especially in these days. So, but what I do, and people just have to find their own comfort level with it. I actually just write some messages in the dark, not even opening an eye hardly, but just write down a few symbols or something that will help me pull the thread of the dream back in the morning.
Beautiful.
And then in the morning when you wake up, if you can just, as one of my dream teachers used to say, roll your eyes back toward where you have been rather than forward to where you're going. So even before you put your feet on the floor, make an effort to recall where you just have been. And then bring back anything that comes, whether it's a memory of a dream or just a mood or a feeling, and then keep a record of that. And in your dream journal, what I do is, take little notes generally right as soon as I get up, so I can remember. And then a little bit later, when I have the time, I light a candle and I write down the narrative of the dream as much as I can recall. And if you do that from day to day, you start to understand the depths of the psyche, even if the messages in the dream feel somewhat obtuse, like you can't quite figure out what exactly it's talking about. The symbols still feel a little mysterious. To realize every symbol in those dreams is an important message from beyond, no matter how sort of pedestrian it seems, like something just on the sidewalk or something that seems very common in your daily waking life. Doesn't have to be a great angel or a mysterious animal that's showing up. It can be the most basic, familiar things in your life, but if they're showing up in your dream, they are a symbol and an image for something that your psyche is trying to help you tune into. And the sort of common wisdom about a dream is that it's always telling you something you don't know. So if you think as James Hillman used to say, if you think you know what your dream means, you're wrong.
Oh, that's a way to keep your humility. I love it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I hold that a little bit loosely, because often I feel that I understand what the dream is referring to, but then I remember it and take that seriously in the sense that, yes, I see what it's referring to and I get the idea that's on the surface of the dream, but then you just kind of still the waters and look deeper in the pool, because it's always revealing something that is somewhat unknown to the waking psyche. Mm-hmm. It's the dreaming mind that is trying to make its way through the layers and the levels of consciousness into your waking consciousness. So you really wait for those images to appear, and sometimes they'll appear soon as you're writing down the dream. I find when I'm writing down the dream, it's new things start to download. It's like a download.
Right. Yes.
And then as you walk through your day, if you kind of hold it somewhat in the back of your mind as you're doing your day, more will come about why that dream showed up. It's the other thing they say about the dream is it always has information for you that's relevant to you right now. So even if it seems to be about your past or about some other unknown era or whatever, it's what you need to know today, right now. It's always relevant, it's always timely, and it's always healing. And that's to know that the dream is always on your side. It always wants your wholeness. It wants to give you the information that you need to know. It's never admonishing you or trying to scare you. It's trying to tell you what would be the most healing perspective that you can have on bringing yourself forward into a state of wholeness. It's retrieving information that is important for your psyche to consider. So.
That's fabulous. Thank you. Because You know, I've heard the term nightmare was attributed to the goddess Hecate riding her horse through the inner landscape to wake you up to important dream messages, you know, that they're the big ones, the big lessons. But I love that it's always working for you. I think that's so reassuring for people. Um, do you have insight into, you know, people that say, oh, I don't dream? My understanding is we all dream, we just forget it, perhaps.
Hmm.
What would you say if somebody said, oh, look, I never remember my dreams, I don't dream?
I hear that all the time.
Yeah?
So, I mean, I think for many, the point is that they haven't realized that it's important. So they just have not trained themselves to remember.
So they're not
Uh,
valuing it.
right. And remembering your dreams can be like building a muscle. It's like going to the gym and just getting a little stronger and a little
Right.
stronger. So it can be an effort to begin to just record, like I was saying, even if it's just a mood or a, wind or weather or a color or uh, anything from the dream. If you start with that and pay attention to it, honor it, value it, and then keep going and seeing if more and more arrives. For some people who really, no matter how much they want to and make an effort to remember their dreams, if they can't, I always recommend looking at the dreaming dimension of the waking life, because
Ah,
it's like going into a little bit of soft focus, as I'm sure that you're quite aware of, and your
yes.
students of about the sort of the mythic dimension, the unconscious symbols and images that are coming to you from your waking life. So the dreaming dimension is always present, and so it's a matter of training, retraining, or refocusing um, the mind to be attentive to that dimension of our reality. It's a different sort of dimension of the reality that we walk around in, and we're kind of trained to focus on what our consensual reality is, but that other reality is always peering at us and reaching out to us. And the more attention we give it, the more that the dreaming mind can speak in your waking life, which is ultimately what we want anyway, right? So even for people who don't remember dreams of the night, I would say look at the dreaming dimension of your waking life and consider it. I mean, really take uh, seriously the crow that lands right in front of you and then seems to turn this way and then do that, and then there's another color, another memory, or another thing that shows up just as these outer events start happening. And consider that your dream, and then work it as you would the messages from beyond, from the
Okay. Thank you. That's great. So the signposts, the synchronicities, the sort of the moments where they're jolted into, oh, that's interesting, like
yeah,
into an observation of, yeah, that's unusual, or this is trying to get my attention.
right,
Yeah.
right. There's
Okay.
a magic to how things show up, as you know, and so listening to the magic and paying attention to it and honoring it for what it brings to us. Yeah.
I love that, because to me, those that have remembered the magic, or perhaps never been separated from it, you
Mm-hmm.
know, are the ones that have that spark behind the eyes,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and those that have lost that sense of the benevolent universe talking to them in every moment, you know, offering them guideposts, are the ones that are desperately, usually unhappy because they're so just trapped by the rational mind.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I suppose encouraging people to start really noticing those synchronicities and those symbols is a great way to start that bridging, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. That's the bridging between the dimensions. We walk in so many different dimensions all at once, and to only focus on the one that is our consensual reality. And as we know, the consensual reality changes from one family to another, from one tribe to another, from
Yes.
one continent to another. So those realities are not as objective and real as we think. They're all sort of malleable, and so it's good to look into
They're
the
very
inner.
subjective, aren't they? And open to prejudice, and yes, being hijacked by the mind, so to speak.
Absolutely, yeah.
I
There's
have
a
a,
ground being. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was just going to say I have an experience often where I'll lie down to sleep and the dream from the previous night immediately comes back, even if I haven't thought about it all day. What is that about? Do you have any sort of explanation for that?
Well, first thing I would say is say thank you. Like, thank,
Be
thank your
grateful.
angels and guides for giving it right back to you because you'd forgotten. And so,
Okay.
yeah, say thank you and be grateful and excited that it's come back, and make note of it, how, whatever. But it's interesting. I would say the same in terms of, I do dream analysis. So often I'll get up in the morning and get about my day and get down to my office and sit there. And as soon as somebody starts talking about their dream, my dreams from the night come flooding back.
Yes.
So I have to say, all right, everybody, I'll pay attention to you later. Take a minute, to just like sort myself out and get into that person's dream. But it's just as soon as we start getting back in touch with the dreaming mind, all that it's offering us is rushing forward for attention. It really wants our attention. It's a whole urge of the psyche to help us and to bless us and to heal. It's the healing function of the deep psyche that's offering this to us. And so there's an urgency about it. It is an urge to come forward like that. So that's why I say, say thank you, because it's, and always, when I wake up, I'm thankful to the dreaming mind for giving me the information that it's given me. It's nice to keep that sort of, that sense of honoring and respect and gratitude flow as you're receiving what it's offering you. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm curious. I mean, we'll get back into the sort of mechanics, but how did you get into this? Like, yeah, was there like a particular catalyst or a turning point moment where you went, this is my calling? Or did you fall into it? Like, how did it come about?
It's a wonderful question, and it was by stages. I mean, as a child, I was quite aware of my dreams, and I can remember sitting in classrooms and just thinking about the dreams of the night and really trying to figure out what was going on that chalkboard over there, and what, trying to refocus so that I could, learn how to live in the world that was, that it was at my feet. But the dreams were really alive and a lot more interesting to me, frankly, than a lot of what was around my waking life.
Yeah.
So I was always kind of sorting that out. And then when I was 24 years old, I met a spiritual teacher. Her name was Anne Colton, and she was a fabulous woman who really understood all the world's religions and mythologies, science, philosophy. She was just amazing. But one of the main things that she taught her students was to listen to our dreams. And so she was very adamant about writing your dreams down every day. So and for me, that was probably how I recognized her as someone I wanted to study with. Because the dreams were, it was like, okay, now I get it. That really is important. It's not something to just try to shoo away that's distracting me from the world. It is the world. So that there was that, and then I went through a lot of years of studying with her, and then into my doctoral work in depth psychology, and that's why I went to depth psychology. That's why I wanted to do my doctorate in depth psychology, because of Freud and Jung's interest in dreams. It was pretty basically because of the dream work that I wanted to study. And then I started, after that, offering retreats and vision quests and so forth. And I would, with the people that I worked with, we would do a little dream work in the morning. And then there were other things that we did the rest of the day, but we started the day with dreams. And it was the dream work that seemed to captivate everyone. And I realized this really is my calling. I could start to see the threads as they developed through my life, that there were so many other things that I taught and did and studied and care about. But it all seemed to come back to the dreams. those were the calls that I got after people left my retreats, was wanting to talk about their dreams. So then I developed a practice of working with people on their dreams privately. And so now I do that with people all over the world through Skype and on the phone, because even Jung couldn't read his own dreams as thoroughly because they come from the unconscious. So it really is good to have partners working with your dreams, especially a trained analyst if possible, but if not, to be talking about your dreams to people you live with, your friends, in your beautiful circles, with trusted partners who respect that. It's good to find the ones that you can have those conversations with. It establishes it more it grounds the information in the cells, and it helps you to see what you can't see by yourself when you're talking.
I like that because, someone said to me once, it's important that the dreamer, the one who had the dream, reads it first, before opening up to the interpretations of others. But the perspectives that others can offer can really act as keys to then get so much more out of it, Yeah. And I think a lot of us as mothers, that's, we naturally ask our children about their dreams and try to help them. It gives us insight into them,
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes. And I would say too, sort of a cautionary thing is when the dreamer is the only expert on their dreams. So if we're offering an insight or a thought about what that dream might mean, if it doesn't feel right to the dreamer, you really want to go with that. You want to, because it's so. The thing to do when you're working with other people's dreams is ask questions more than say, this is what I think that means.
Thank you.
It's important. I mean, you can say, I wonder if, that what occurs to me is, but then really, really follow the dreamer. It's like, I don't think, and then kind of follow the path of the dreamer, where the energy is for the dreamer. So it's like a sacred landscape. So people need to be respectful that
not impose.
Impose our own stories or our prejudices, or the ways that we've developed to think about.
Yes.
Well, I think dog means this, or I think it's really
yes. The dream book says blah blah blah. Yeah, no, that's good. What about people have said to me the feeling of a dream is more important than perhaps, the details. Do you feel that that's so? Do you feel that it's 50-50? Not to apply a percentage to it, but how do you work with the feeling of a dream?
Well, I think it's very significant. Is the dream scaring you? Is it making you happy? When you're entering that room, are you intrigued? Are you nervous? Are you, and that would tell you a lot about what it is that you're dealing with there, and how you feel about it. If somebody's digging through a box and feeling excited and happy about the contents of that box, then that tells you something about what you're opening up.
Okay, lovely. Yes.
Yeah, it's like that. It's always important to, and sometimes that gets forgotten. So it's always good to ask the dreamer, how did you feel when that
right.
was?
Yeah. What about, I remember I did a session with a soul-centered psychotherapist years ago where she got me to be every piece of the dream, including an electric jug. It was a very intense dream. I was pouring boiling water on my mother's face, which...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, very disturbed by this dream. I wanted to know about every, really understand it. And she got me to be the jug at one point. And I got so much out of that. But I would never have thought of that, of writing or speaking from the perspective of every single part of the dream. Is that something you do with clients, or?
Absolutely.
It is.
Everything
Okay.
in the dream, the weather, the sun, that it's all part of our own. There's so many different layers to the dream. So, but at one level, it's every single thing in the dream is part of us. So if there's a wall in the dream, you want to ask yourself, what am I walling out? Or what am I walling in? Or, the living room in your dream is the part of the personality that is like usually present to the public, whereas the bedroom in the dream is the part that is the more private. Those sorts of things. All the
That's
settings
great.
in the dreams are settings in our own psyche, our own interpsychic life. So yes, look at absolutely everything as part of yourself.
And if someone was to see a man, I'm imagining that would be our inner masculine. But what if it's somebody like their husband, or a celebrity like Johnny Depp? Like, is that still a part of us?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, if you dream of a celebrity, or think of what are the qualities of that celebrity. Is it somebody that's like, maybe if it's Johnny Depp, is it a dark, mysterious kind of bad boy kind of? And that would be that part of your own inner masculine that's
Right.
maybe that has those qualities, that's presenting itself to you, and so it puts his face on it because that's going to remind you of those qualities. If it's I don't know, like an elegant intellectual, that, then it's putting that face on it so that you can meet that part of your own animus psyche.
And what about animals? Would they be like, how do you discern between, say, the medicine of a visiting animal totem as a teacher or a guide, as opposed to an animal being a part of us? Or is that still one and the same? Like, it's evoking that within our psyche?
Well, there's, as I said, so many levels to it.
Okay, you can,
But I mean, sometimes it's good to just look at the animal. Like, I'm just right now looking out, and there's a little rabbit right in front of me. So what is that? What is that rabbit? What is that creature? Offering me in terms of an intelligence or a view of the world, or how to get my face down in the dirt and smell the flowers in a certain way, or whatever it might be. And on the other hand, to see what the qualities of that animal are in my own psyche, and why these, especially when they show up in the dreams, there's a specificity to the medicine of that animal that you want to recognize. In terms of, as many of us see that we're all one thing anyway. This is, the whole Gaia is one thing. So we have a human aspect that we're representing to the bunny, as much as the bunny is representing an aspect of ourselves to us. So it's a very
relational,
subjective kind of field that we're in. So I would say look at it as something autonomous, like an autonomous image that is coming to you, that has its own messaging system, its own way of life, and that is greeting you. And then also look at it as an inner figure that's mirroring something to you about yourself, and giving you some information about how to maybe strengthen or vitalize that aspect of your own psyche.
I like that. Thank you. To look at it both ways rather than either or. What about since the women are gathering at New Moon, have you noticed, either with yourself or your clients, that the dreams change depending on, the lunar phase or the phase of a woman's fertility cycle?
Yes, for many years, I used to write down the phase of the moon every time I wrote down my dream, so that I could track whether it was waning, waxing, what quarter the moon was in. And I paid a lot of attention to that. I have maybe gotten lazy, or just got a little moved away from paying that much attention to it, but there's a lot to learn from that. I just was looking through my dream journal this morning. I have an old one that I'm putting away and getting the new one out. So I was kind of tenderly looking at the old one, and I opened up, and there was a beautiful dream of Archangel Gabriel coming into the room, and with all this like messaging, and it was right in the full moon.
Oh, the time of illumination.
Yeah, right.
Beautiful.
That just was so sort of obvious in a way. Of course, that was a full moon dream. I mean, you can start to recognize the ways that the psyche shows up for you at the different phases of the moon, and it's good to see the waxing and the waning, and writing in your journal what phase the moon is in, if that's something you pay attention to. That might help you explore the tenor of the messages that are coming. And
I'm just thinking for the women that are facilitating circles, that could be a lovely piece of homework to give the women to do that and then come back and compare that, for the month. But what about, there was a book, Pocket Full of Dreams by Denise Lin, that I used to have about 20 years ago. And in it she had, like the Chinese meridians. So if you have a dream, say between, I don't know, 3 a.m, say, I think that's, I can't remember if it's lung time, but, that there are 2-hour windows where different meridians, different organ chi is activated, and that affects the sort of dreams that we have. Is that something, I mean, that's getting quite, what would you say, in depth. But is that something that you notice a lot within your own work and your own dreams, that there's a real pattern to the time of a dream and how it relates to the body?
Well, dreams are like looking at a astrological chart. Different astrologers will see different things in the charts, as you know what I mean. It's like, it's like certain dreamers can look right into the body, make a diagnosis based on understanding the different, even just the patterns, the flow of energy in the dream, that they'll recognize how the different organs in the body are relating to one another. So I would say all that information is there. And it depends on the person who's working with the dream, what their level of awareness is around the different ways. And that's why it's beautiful to work with a circle with your dream, because everybody has a little different idea of how to see the same thing, and can offer so much more than our particular point of view on
I love that. Because exactly, one person's gift might be medical intuition, and another person's gift is archetypes, and another exactly. But I'm thinking you'd need a whole day for the circle. Do it as a retreat, probably. So let's see, I've got other questions here that I got into a complete conversation with you. The term dream time, I mean, for us here in Australia where I live, that's certainly a term that we're familiar with. But how do you understand what it refers to, the dream time?
Well, I would say the way I began to understand the dream time was through the Aboriginal people, and how they just speak of the dream time, that I understood then more about my dreams by reading those people's understanding of the dream time as a dimension where we live, breathe, and have our being. And I remember reading that they would say that the Western person is mentally ill because he only remembers his dreams at night and can't walk in and out of the dream time in the waking, and that they were capable of walking in and out of the dreamscape while awake and not being somehow abducted or confused by that. Like in the West, that would probably be considered a mental illness, when you go into the dreamscape and all of a sudden you're on the moon and you're having these conversations with creatures that aren't there. That's walking into the dream time. But it's if we had more fluidity between the dimensions of the actual ontological reality that we live in and dwell in, that how interdimensional it is, and allow ourselves to be more fluid, not have the walls between them so much, that the dream time is its own dimension of reality. That and Tanishka, I've had the most interesting experiences of meeting people in my dreams, and then at some point later in life, actually meeting them in person.
Wow.
And I hear that from clients a lot. So that you've been inhabiting the dream time,
yes,
and experiences with people that you don't necessarily bring back into your life today, and then a year later there's that person that you've realized that you've known, and you recognize generally, oh yeah, I know you. It's almost like you can start the conversation even though you're just now meeting, the conversation that you've been having in another dimension. And you know, often even if we don't remember dreaming that person, you know, when you meet someone and all of a sudden you're just starting the conversation that you feel like you've been having for years.
Yeah.
A real truth to that in this other dimension that we're not quite as aware of in our waking life, that we are having these experiences, knowing these characters, having a whole other perception of the world and of life. So it's like string theory is starting to prove all this in physics, that, you know, that there's through string theory, there's these other dimensions that are actually coherent with the dimension that we're living in, and we're only focused on one. And that's partly because of our training. We're only trained to focus on one. If we train ourselves to focus on others, like David Bohm, who's known as the father of quantum physics, used to say that you can't see anything your mind doesn't have a concept for. So for angels, I'm never going to see one. If I have a concept,
right,
that, then it can appear. And he had beautiful ways of articulating that, you know. But
I remember that again with the Australian Aboriginals. They didn't see the tall ships because they had no concept of such a thing, and it was only one of the seers that was open to seeing it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember one African fellow saying that his ancestor came over here and looked at a TV, and all he could see was dots and you know, he could not see the image that we see on the TV. His eyes, his whole brain was not trained to see what we see.
So if you have that sense of, oh, I've met this person before, or a sense of, you know, what's termed deja vu, of I've had this moment before, do you feel that's because you've dreamed it often the night before, that meeting or that moment?
Possibly the night before, or possibly it's, you know, it's just a sense of that all has happened already in the dream time, and now it's unfolding in this particular dimension. I think past, present, and future are all illusions anyway, but in the dream time more so, you know, that's so that's why the glitch in time can happen easily, I think, when you're more in tune with the dream time.
So that leads me to then, how would you discern a prophetic dream from a dream that is your psyche showing you something that's unresolved? Like, is there a hallmark? Is there a feeling? I don't know. I mean, I'm not somebody that has developed the gift of prophecy when it comes to my dreaming experiences, but my ex-husband had that. So, you know, is it, I don't know, how have you got any words to sort of help someone discern a prophetic dream from a garden variety dream?
Yeah, there are so many different kinds of dreams, just like there's so many different kinds of conversations that you can have. So some of
okay.
I would say it's just an intuition that you have that this is prophetic, and sometimes it's more obvious than that. It's just like in your face. However, I think it's important to remember the symbolic language of the dream, that not to take it too literally, because sometimes you can dream of war or death or
the end of the world sort of thing.
Right, and it's really just a psychic reality. It's not necessarily in this dimension a reality to be lived. So so to just keep in mind not to literalize. It's always important not to literalize the dream, to remember the symbolic nature of the language of the dream. And sometimes very literally it will unfold just as you saw it, but I wouldn't anticipate that. You know, hold it really loosely and see how literal or symbolic that message is that if it is, and also to recognize that sometimes a prophecy won't unfold because now we've seen it and we can change the future. It gives us
Nice.
the opportunity to change the future.
Yeah, right. Like a glimpse into a possible trajectory in a parallel universe sort of thing.
Absolutely. Right. And so you live it out differently.
Right. Nice.
Make choices based on the information that it offers you.
I mean, I love that your initial response is, oh, well, it's your intuition. Of course it is.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah.
your intuition will tell you what sort of a dream it is. It's,
Yeah.
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 So with advice about remembering and incubating dreams, I mean, I've been told a sprig of fresh rosemary under your pillow helps dreams to be more vivid, and having half a glass of water before you go to bed, and then setting that intention that you'll remember as you finish the glass of water in the morning. Do you find, well, certain herbs such as rosemary do help with either dream recall or, you know, helping the dreams to become more vivid? Because I know, you know, things like drugs and alcohol certainly dampen people's ability to recall.
Right. One of the traditional herbs that's used is mugwort. And I had a friend who we used to put mugwort under her pillow, and her husband started dreaming. The minute she started doing that, he was waking up in the morning going, "Oh my gosh, I'm having all these dreams." And she realized it was the mugwort. And he didn't care about dreams. He wasn't trying to incubate his dreams, but
Yeah.
he was apparently very sensitive to the medicine of the mugwort. So there are certain herbs, and the rosemary and the mugwort, and different methods for, like, I love your glass of water. I used to do that too. Drink half of the glass before I went to bed with the prayer and the intention of remembering my dream, and then imbibing the other half of the glass when I woke up to just like refresh
Download it. Yeah.
Right. So, but I would say it's all about like listening to your own dreaming mind to give you the ideas and the ways to incubate your dreams.
Right.
And ask the questions. Jung used to say that there's a 2 million-year-old person inside of each of us. And so when you go to sleep, ask that 2 million-year-old person what you want, what you want insight into. And
Wow.
Maybe that
beautiful.
ancient spirit of the world and of the psyche will speak to you in your dreams. So,
oh, I love that.
Yeah, there's a whole ancient wisdom that is available to us, and we just need to turn our faith and belief and our concept, have a concept that actually can and will speak to us.
Bless you, because I think the job for us now on the planet is remembering, because there's been such interruption to the handing down of, what we once knew, what we had in Lemuria and then Atlantis to a lesser degree. But you know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So thank you. I think that's just a marvelous tool and intention to set to connect with that ancient mind, be it the collective mind, the more individual. That's actually final question. What are some dreams more about the collective than the personal?
Tanishka, during this 2016, that was such a kind of critical year in the collective for so many different countries in the political world, and other areas of concern, especially global warming, all that. I couldn't believe, I seemed to have one person after another, hour after hour, coming into my office with dreams that I thought, this is a collect. It's like I could look at it personally for the symbolism for that person, but I felt like the dream was telling the story of what's going on in the whole collective psyche, and that people are dreaming and picking it up. And it made me recall more and more how the indigenous people even the ones that are still living now, but especially historically, would get up in the morning and listen to the dreams of the community. And that's how they knew how to conduct their days or make their decisions about when to hunt, when to plant, what's going on in sort of the interpersonal dynamics in the people in the village, or that the dreams of the collective mind were what they referred to when they were making decisions for the people, and privately too. So, and I think that's how they stayed in touch with the earth, because the earth itself is dreaming. It's what's dreaming. It's dreaming us. And
I love that.
Yeah. And so when I started hearing all these dreams, I realized the earth is dreaming through these people. It's like these vapors from deep in the earth that are coming up through the collective psyche that are offering themselves. So Jocelyn Mercado and I started a dream symposium that we're doing every month to listen to dreaming. So yeah, I can talk more about that later, but
tell us now. Tell us about that.
Well, every month because I wrote a piece on this, I was trying to decide what to do with all this information that I was getting, because here I am alone in an office and all this is just like laid on the platter in front of me. I didn't know if I was supposed to write about it or talk about it or what to do with assembling this information. I talked about the indigenous people listening together. And so I wrote something about it, and Jocelyn, who is a friend of both of ours, who introduced us, picked it up, and she said, well, we'll start a symposium. We'll start this collective thing where we can meet every month and listen to people's dreams. So people from all over the world are showing up on this 2-hour sessions we do every month to listen to everyone's dreams and holding the messages together. And it's really quite fascinating, the coherence of the symbols that are coming through, and the way that we start dreaming together now, people from all these different continents and places, and all of a sudden we're this little village. So we're doing that, and we just launched, just like 3 or 4 days ago, a site called the Dream Village that goes with this, so people can put their follow through, because Jocelyn and I again started receiving a lot of information after the symposiums from people about things that were occurring to them or their next dream or what was happening. So we decided to make a website where people can put that information and their drawings and images together so we can dream together. I think that's how it's going to be. It's a collective experience, what's coming up, and to be listening to your dream and my dream and the other person's dream, and putting all that information together is like putting together pieces of a puzzle so you can see the whole picture.
I love it. It reminds me of in New Zealand, in the Maori tradition, how when one tribe visits with another tribe, they all sleep in the marae, in the meeting house. And it's through sharing the dreaming together that they are then family. That's when they're considered family. So they wake up in the morning, it's like having shared a meal together, And I think that this is key when you consider that the shift from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age is the shift into unity consciousness. So to be connecting the collective mind consciously, I think it's a wonderful, wonderful, initiative that you're doing. And, I'm sure it will take off like wildfire. Just before this interview, I was watching a documentary on intuition. It's like, this is so what the world needs right now, the mystical to restore our psyche back to health. So and I think when people sleep with someone for the first time and they feel bonded, in speaking to you, I'm thinking it's not necessarily about the sex, it's about sharing the dreaming.
Yes, right. Yeah. And often that people are quite aware of that there's dreaming together, and that seems to come up out of the conversation from the night before more than the physical connection. It's just the dream sharing happens. I've had that experience too, where it's just like, wow, there's something that we just opened up in terms of the fluidity between this in the psyche that it becomes quite apparent. It's lovely.
So, I'm just thinking, is the Dream Village, is that dreamvillage.com? Is that how people would find that?
You know, she just launched it about 3 days ago. It's hardly even set up. So I think the way to find the Dream Village.
What about your website? If
you go into my website, which is TayriaWard.com, that's TayriaWard, TayriaWard.com. There's a Dream Symposium page.
Okay.
On my website. If you go to the Dream Symposium page and scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can register for the symposium, and then you'll get on the list, and that will tell you when the symposiums are coming up. And so you'll be on the symposium mailing list, and that will give you access to the Dream Village.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's brand new. So the site looks like it's brand new. It's like, okay, here's a blank page. Let's fill it up. It's very exciting. You know, all of a sudden, we're just starting to introduce ourselves to each other and figure out where this is going to go. And the symposium, I think we've just had our 5th month. So it's all a newly developing possibility, and I'm
very exciting, and we're lucky to have someone that's so experienced, you know, because I know myself. This week I said to a girlfriend, you know, where are our elders? As in, you know, I was dealing with it was an entity, and it was like, you know, gee, I wish we had some elders right now to help us with this. So it's so wonderful. Thank you for, you know, not just having done the work that you've done, but being prepared to lead, to be fully seen, to put yourself out there and online. You know, it's wonderful. It's accessible.
Well, thank you so much for your appreciation for this that I do, because honestly, I don't know as many people that really care about what I do. They like me. I have friends and family, but they don't know anything about this. So I so appreciate being able to talk to someone who really acknowledges the depth and the power of the possibility of reconnecting to our dreams in this way. So,
well, I'm sure there'll be a stream of women that come to you through this, you know, particular offering. So thank you for your time. Is there anything that you wanted to say that didn't get said, or anything at all?
Oh, I would just say have fun with it. Don't be scared of it. But really pay attention. It's a sacred offering. Every dream is a sacred offering, and never just be dismissive of that.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you. All right. Well, we'll say thank you and goodbye, and we look forward to reconnecting again. Blessings.
In touch. Thank you so much, Tanishka.
Pleasure.